All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I'm just going to be Today I'm going to be doing a lesson on two clips that I came across this morning, where it shows you how, Edomites, when they commit crimes, they don't get as harsh sentences as when, Israelites commit crimes, man, because one thing Esau Edom is known for doing is committing murder, man. That's what he loves to do, especially who? He loves to kill Israelites, man. He loves to take our lives, unjustly, especially with, these particular incidences that have been taking place, as of recently. So I'm going to play a couple clips and bring out a few scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And before I play these clips, I'm going to read the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act, 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. So the following clips that I'm going to play are being used for educational purposes only. I'm not making any money off of anyone else's content. So fair use, fair use, fair use. Let's play this first one.
Posted a video yesterday about 17 black people who died mysteriously and quickly realized that this list is never ending. If you're white, please watch all the way through. We are not allowed to look away when we feel uncomfortable anymore. On June 29th, just last week, Gerard Jackson went to a music festival with his white friends before one of them contacted his mom and said he was missing and having a mental health crisis. His family says he's never struggled with that before. His friends say they took his phone and keys away and he must have taken his keys back while they were sleeping, even though he didn't take his phone. He was found hanging in a wooden area with his car over a mile from the festival grounds. During the period that he didn't have his phone, there were several attempts to log into his bank account and his Apple Pay was used at a local gas station. His family says there's no way he killed himself, and on top of all of this, they cremated his body without their permission. Tania Nicole Miller was found hanging in a tree in Miami just 3 weeks ago on June 18th. She was there to celebrate Juneteenth and her death was ruled a suicide. Why the fuck would she post on Instagram that she was traveling for Juneteenth and then proceed to... In November of 2024, 15-year-old Jalen Reeves was stabbed to death 6 times by a 14-year-old white boy. That boy was later cleared of his second-degree murder charges, claiming self-defense. And guess what? His dad is a high-level executive at Axon. What's Axon, you might ask? An American company primarily developing weapons and technology for military and law enforcement, known for its Taser electroshock weapons, a market it has dominated since 2003. He works for a police weapons manufacturer. In 2021, Jelani Day went missing and his remains were found weeks later in an Illinois river. Police ruled it an accidental drowning, and his mom calls that an insult. She said Jelani was an avid swimmer and avid swimmers don't drown themselves. He has never had depression or struggled with mental health. In 2020, 15-year-old Kawan Charles was picked up by his white friend and his friend's mom, who allegedly gave them alcohol, weed, and mushrooms and didn't report him missing for 4 days after he said he was going to kill himself and left their house. He was found lying face down in a sugarcane field with only a few inches of water, and the official report says he likely drowned himself on purpose. How he could have drowned himself in 6 inches of water is beyond me. Willie Jones Jr. was found hanging in his white girlfriend's parents' Mississippi yard in 2018. Her stepfather says he didn't touch him, but Willie's family says he had an athletic injury that limited his shoulder mobility to the point that he physically couldn't have hung himself. Of course, it was ruled a suicide. The family did win a wrongful death lawsuit 3 years later, but to this day, no arrests have been made. In 2013, Kendrick Johnson was found inside a vertical rolled-up gym mat at his high school in Georgia. The initial investigation showed the cause of death as accidental, but when the family hired someone to perform a private autopsy, it showed the cause of death as blunt force trauma. Another interesting fact here, the 2 possible suspects were both the sons of an FBI agent. That was part of the lawsuit they tried to win, but for some reason, it didn't work out for them. Alonzo Brooks went to a party with his 3 white friends in 2004, was called racial slurs. His friends left him at the party with the perpetrators. He went missing and his body was found on the property a month later. The local pathologist couldn't determine a cause of death, but then an armed forces medical examiner concluded it was homicide. To this day, we have no answers. These are only the most public of cases and not even a fraction of them. Black people deserve to grow old. Posted a video yet.
And yeah, the dude, that was given the information, yeah, he's a sodomite, but again, he's given the accounts of, some that happened recently and some that were a little older, where you have, these Jakes who were murdered, but what? Either the cause of death was accidental, or it was a suicide, which one thing Israelites don't do, you know what I'm saying, or we're not known for. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but we're not known for, just taking our own lives, man, without a serious reason. Now, it's understandable. Some may do it, for whatever reason. Life got them down, that demon, that depression demon has got on them, whatever. But Jakes don't just take their own lives, man, So, again, that's how they're ruling it, especially with this, situation that just happened in Mississippi recently, man. And they're trying to say, that, it was a suicide, man, or it was an accident. Like, no, it's not what we do, So I'm going to play this next one as well, man.
Okay, so let me share some information with y'all, right? So the top row, the first one, Colt Gray. He killed 4 people, right? Injured 4 people. He was armed. He was arrested by the police, alive, right? The second one, Dylan Roof. He killed 9, injured 1. He was armed, and he got arrested by police, alive. Third one, Peyton, murdered 10, injured 3, armed, and was arrested, alive. Travis, murdered 4, injured 4, armed, arrested, alive. Bottom row, Sean Bell, murdered 0, injured 0, unarmed, was dead. Shot 50 fucking times. Stephen Clark, second one, murdered 0, injured 0, unarmed, dead. Shot 20 fucking times. Jalen Walker, murdered 0, injured 0, unarmed, dead. Shot 90 fucking times. Sonia Massey, murdered 0, injured 0, unarmed, dead. Shot in the fucking head. So, I know what you're about to say. Stop making it about race. Tell the cops that. Okay, so let me...
And as you can clearly see, that individual, he's showing you how, Esau, Edomites will go out and commit these serious crimes. They'll go out armed. All of those individuals, Dylan Roof, we already know his situation, man, because if I'm not mistaken, he was either the Oxford school shooter. If not, I may be getting him mixed up with another guy. But either way, he went out and committed a mass shooting, because that's one thing Esau is known for doing, going out and committing mass shootings. Because, again, what was his blessing? The sword, man, But all of those individuals committed murder, injured, and took multiple lives. But what? They got less sentences. But meanwhile, the 4 Jakes at the bottom, were killed by the police, murdered by the police, They said they shot one Jake 90 times, man. They Swiss cheesed them. Like, they're bloodthirsty, and this is the characteristics of Esau Edom, man. They're a violent people, but and yet they put the finger at us as if we're the violent people. We're savages. He loves to call us that, but really the true savage is him. Those people, you people, Edom, you so-called white people, you're the true savages, man. You're the only nation of people that is damn near genocided, an entire tribe of people, man. But yet so-called Negroes are the bad guys. Do we have wicked amongst our people? Of course, but we're not evil, man. You are. You're the wicked in the earth. It's just, and even though we know, those of us that are in the know, we know that these Jakes that lose their lives, man, it was judgment at the end of the day. They're being paid back for something that they did. But at the same time, we'll never truly get justice in this current world, man, because this is not our world, man. The wicked is running this world. Hence the reason why these things, happen the way they do, man. This is an unjust system. So I'm going to start with the book of, actually, before I grab that, I'm just going to grab it, man. Since I made mention, I'm going to grab the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. And it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And right, man. Esau, Edom is the wicked. He's the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. And who is in current, control of the world? It says the wicked. Who is the wicked? Edom, man. The so-called white man. He's running the world right now, and we can clearly see it, The earth, the entire planet Earth, is, out of order right now, man, because of this man. This past week, last Saturday just celebrated, America being in power for 250 years. But what, man? The Lord rained on their parade, literally, man. Rained on their parade. He had a guy parachute, with the American flag, and flop, man, But that just goes to show you the decline of America, man. It's over for this place. But what? The wicked being Edom, man. You're in control of this world. And you're trying to act like, you're the just people. You're the righteous. You're not. You're the wicked, man. You're not the Lord's people. We are. Hence the reason why you have this hatred for us, man. Which goes back to Jacob and Esau. Which goes back even further, to Cain and Abel. You have that perpetual hatred for us, man, still to this day. Because like I just got done watching the Elder Malcolm's video earlier. And what, man? That war between, Esau and Jacob is still going on, man, to this day. It's still going on. Because there is a war between Israel and Edom, man. And it's not going to be over until our Lord comes back and takes this man out of power, So let's get that in the book of Genesis, chapter 27. And verse, I'm going to start at 40. It says, actually, I'll start up. Because again, this is the mindset of Esau, man. I'm gonna start at verse 38 just to give the backstory. This is when, Jacob, he supplanted Isaac, man. He deceived him into thinking he was Esau, which, Rebecca helped him, because either way it goes, the blessing and the birthright were gonna go to Jacob anyway, man. It was never promised for Esau, man. This is Genesis 27 and 38. It says, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. So right, man, he has the fatness of the earth, man, and he has the best of everything, man. Really talking about the elites. But even these lower level Edomites, man, they're still living good, which some of them are starting to feel, what it's like to struggle, but what? They still have a good quality of living compared to the average Jake out here, man. They have the fatness. They have the best of everything right now, right? But also, verse 40, and by thy sword shalt thou live and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break the yoke from off his neck. So right, man, they broke that yoke, meaning, when King David and King Solomon, had them in subjection, in slavery, what, again, they were down for that 1,000 years, man. Then after, during, the Renaissance, they came out of those caves and eventually started to, conquer Europe, man. But what? It says by his sword, man. Esau loves his sword. He loves his weaponry. And it's not just limited to the gun, man. He has all kinds of crazy weapons out here, man. But again, the primary weapon that he loves to slay us with is the gun, man, which is the modern day sword. He takes his weaponry very, very seriously, man. Because again, just like they shot the one Jake 90 times, man. And I even have, a clip saved on Instagram, because I have videos, of police shootings, But one video in particular, a Jake, I'm not sure how old the video is, but a Jake, he was down on his knees. And he said, what? If you release the dog, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot. They released the dog anyway, which he did have a firearm. But what? He tossed it. And they killed him and ended up shooting their own police dog, man. This goes to show you how trigger happy Esau is to take our lives, man. Verse 41, this is the point. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, meaning his mind, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And right, man, ever since that moment, Esau, through his children after him, they still have that, perpetual hatred for us, man, because they know in their heart of hearts that we have the blessing. We have the birthright, man. The promises that the Lord promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we're going to receive, man. This man is angry about that. Hence the reason why he's going to attempt, to, make his false kingdom of heaven, man, which is why the elites of Edom are trying to establish their new world order, which the Lord is going to allow them to only get so far with it. They're not going to succeed, like how they think they're going to do, which their, ultimate reset, which is to what? Set off these nukes, man. If they can't rule, then no one can. But we know that's not how it's going to go down, man, But this man has a hatred for us, man. Always has and always will, because that's what he does, man. He's a bloodthirsty man. So let me go ahead and grab that in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 35 and verse 5. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity and the time that their iniquity had an end. And right, man, you have shed and continually shed the blood of the children of Israel, man, because again, overall, we're a peaceful people, man. We just want to be left alone, to live our lives, because again, we're a sovereign people. Obviously, we're in captivity. We're serving out our punishment for sinning against the Heavenly Father. But overall, we're sovereign, man. You don't realize what you have done. You've put your hands on the Lord's, jewels, man. The apple of his eye, his precious people, man. You don't realize that you're going to be paid back for all of the wickedness, not only that you have done in the planet Earth in general, but what you have done unto the children of Israel, man. You're going to be paid back for that. Verse 6, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sith thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. And right, man, we know Esau, he is a bloody man. He loves to eat his meat, raw or uncooked, or undercooked, man. Just like I have a clip saved where you have, an Edomite dude literally eating a dead possum, man. Seen another video of a woman on a sidewalk eating a dead deer, man. This is the nature of you people, man. You're a bloody people. You love blood. It doesn't bother you, which is why you can just take the life of someone or something unjustly, man. Do it just for fun. One thing that really infuriates me about you people is that you'll go over to Africa to hunt those wild animals, man, just for sport, man. Hunting is supposed to be for survival, hunting certain animals, to get food from that particular animal that you just hunted, as long as it's lawful. But we know Esau Edom, he doesn't keep the laws, man, but he knows because he still is Hebrew, right? But this is the nature of this man. So you shed our blood, your blood is going to be shed as well, man. This is what the Lord is coming back to do, to take you people out of power, man. Because this thing that is happening, man, this reoccurring thing where you have Jakes, end up dying, being murdered by this group of people. And then what is ruled as, it was a suicide or it was an accident. Just some BS excuse when those of us, we know, even the average Jake can see it, man. You do these things, man. Right? It's just insane. But you're a liar. This is what you do. So this is the book of Psalm 73 and verse 4. It says, Slakia, verse 5. Psalm 73 and 5, it says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. So, right, you're not in trouble as other men. Because I made mention of it earlier, how again, and even the one Edomite, he even made mention of it as well, man. how Jakes will, they'll get the book thrown at them. They'll get the harshest sentence, for whatever particular crime they committed, whether they actually committed the crime or not, man. Because again, we know that one thing Esau loves to do is falsely convict our people of crimes that they did not commit, And so lucky for the background noise. I'm sitting in my car right now, but that's one thing he loves to do is falsify, information, just to throw the book at us or any chance he gets, to take our lives, man. So he's not in trouble as other men. He's not plagued like we are, And meanwhile, they commit the most heinous crimes and get a slap on the wrist for it, man. But meanwhile, Jacob, can commit a minor offense and get a harsh sentence for it, man. This is an unjust system, So coming back to the book of Job, man, because I made mention of it, especially with this recent incident with this Jake, that, was drowned, it just doesn't make any sense, But the Elder Malcolm, I made mention of it earlier, man, because this current time that we're in is really no excuse for our people to not know that they are Israelites, man. It's no excuse because they either came across the camp or came across the video somehow, some way. Because again, just like it says in the scriptures that, the word is going to be preached throughout the four corners of the earth. So there's really no excuse for our people to not know, But as it also says in the scriptures, willingly, our people are willingly ignorant, man. They're ignorant to the fact that, we're God's chosen people, that we're the Most High's chosen people, Deuteronomy 7:6, Deuteronomy 14:2 explicitly explains this, man, that we're the Lord's people, that he chose us above all people, that he made us to, better than all of these different people, But yet you tell the average nigga that, man, and what? Nah, man, we this, we that, man. Like, you niggas just have no hope because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel like we do, like the hopeful elect see it, man. But this is the book, but this is the book of Job, chapter 4 and verse 7. And it says, remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off. And right, man, we know anytime our people die, that they're being paid back for something that they did either in this life or something that they did, in their past life, because just like it says in Exodus that, the Lord visits the iniquity of your fathers, even unto the third and fourth generation, So you could have did something in your past life and the Lord may have allowed you to, just live out your life. But what? Come back in this current life and the Lord takes you out, for that sin that you committed or sins, man, because the Lord will allow our people to build up that sin, which is iniquity, sin upon sin, So again, that individual was not innocent, man. None of our people that have perished on this side, especially to, these Edomites, they weren't innocent, they're being paid back, So I'm also going to get this book of Psalms, chapter 64 and verse 8. And it says, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, or that see them shall flee away. And right, you had the one Sodomite, Edomite, what showing the nature of his people, the other Edomite, showing how, also showing the nature of Edom, Because what did that Sodomite say? White people, we're no longer allowed to, turn our heads when, like, yeah, you're right, man. Because again, you people are going to have to face the crimes that your people as a whole have committed, from the transatlantic slave trade, to all of these and, these heinous crimes that you've done against us, in this current time we're in. And what, even all of the things that you did to us in the ancient world, man. You're going to be paid back for all of your iniquity, man. All of these evil, wicked things that you have done unto us. And what, you have your own people, speaking out against you, So we're coming into that time where, again, yeah, all hell is eventually going to break loose. But what? We're still waiting for our Lord Yahweh Shai to come back and restore order in this earth, to take you people out of power, man, because this is a very unjust system, you know, and you're going to continue to shed the blood of the children of Israel as long as this place is still standing, which is why I make mention of it, you know, at camp from time to time, you know. But in order for there to truly be peace in this earth, America, aka Babylon the Great, has to be destroyed, and Esau Edom has to be taken down, man. This man has to be put into captivity. Otherwise, things are going to get worse, which is also why the Lord sped up the time, man. You know, for who? For the elect's sake. So I just wanted to speak on that, you know, real quick before I head in. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say, Shalom.